Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, we're back at the bar. We've bellied back up. The lights are on. Everything's open. The stools are down. It is time to get going here. We have bellied up with a beautiful woman, has graced the presence of all of us bearded wonders out here. She's joined us. She's going to tell us about women's empowerment, sexy after 50. She is a Toastmaster general. She has written 2 books. Most of us haven't read 2 books if it wasn't Dr. Seuss. And she's going to bring it all in for us today. We have been graced with, and I'm not going to say her last name because I can't. It's got more consonants than it does vowels. So I'm not even going to give it a shot of butchering that thing up. But we are joined here today by Miss Carrie V.
I want to take a bow.
I had to get you all set up, get you going here. So welcome, my dear. How are you?
I am so good now. So good now because we're here together. It's going to be awesome. I was listening to the music, man. I was just like backstage getting into that. That was awesome.
Good jam.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into it. We're going to tell you guys about how Carrie and I met, how we realized during the pre-show that we are the yin and yang of each other's shows. That's a whole thing we just realized. But before we get going too far, as always, let's talk about the big board behind me, sticker and a cause. If you got something you believe in, something you support, anything along those lines, you send me the sticker. I'll put it up on the board. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, our Instagram, even our email. They're all the Above the Bar podcast. You type that in, it's going to pop up with my beautiful mug. You guys can all link up there, send me a message and tell me, hey, what's your address? I want to send you this sticker for sticker and a cause. We'll throw it up on the board and read about it. The more charitable, the more support you need, we'll be more than happy to, because that's the only way everybody's word gets out there. That's how it happens. Also, let's talk about our sponsor, Media by Dibs. If you need your media to be sexy, make sure you contact Media by Dibs. He will go ahead, take a look at it. Oh, hold on. I just realized my mute. Okay, Google, stop. I didn't realize my music started. I'm like, why do I hear Outkast in the background? I was like, Carrie's jamming out tonight.
Oh yeah, I brought the goods.
She brought all the good stuff with her. But reach out to Media by Dibs. If you mention it, Media by Dibs, and you can find him on Facebook and Instagram, Media by Dibs. Or if you log into LinkedIn, look up Andrew Dibble, and you mention to him, hashtag belly up to the bar. He will go ahead and give you a 10% discount off of his off of your first order, and he'll give you a free consultation, let you know, hey, how can he help you out? So all those things are done. The bar is open. Drinks are flowing. We're going to go from coffee and tea with Carrie V that you see on the screen to beards and bourbon with me. And welcome, my dear. How are you?
I am good. I'm excellent. Loving life.
See, and Carrie does. I want her to tell her. I can't wait for her to tell her story of how she got to this point, because I know Carrie full of life, adventurer, and I think it wasn't always that way.
It was not even close.
We're going to get into that, but I wanted you all to, for those of you that are watching the visual right now, and I'll explain it to everyone who's not. If you were to look, Carrie records in the mornings, 1, 2 o'clock. I record in the evenings. Carrie is coffee and tea, and I'm beer and bourbon. Carrie's back wall right now is painted white brick, very nice. And we've got the red brick. She's got over the ears. I got in the ear headphones. I got the beard. She doesn't. Well, thankfully she doesn't.
Thankfully.
But we have realized that we are the yin and yang of each other's show. We got a little bit of vibe of each other's show, but we are definitely the yin and yang for each other's show.
Yeah, we are.
But I want to Carrie. So Carrie, let's get into it right away. I don't want to waste too much time. So let's talk about how we get to where we are right now today. This Carrie V that we all see always smiling, happy, great videos on TikTok and YouTube and all that. How do we get there?
Boy, it's a journey, and I love this question because I feel like when we pick up these devices that we carry everywhere and we start scrolling through people's feeds, we see a highlight reel. We see all these great things and we wonder, if is there something wrong with me, that my journey was so many valleys and so much pain and so many mistakes, and when you really dig deep, everybody's journey is peaks and valleys. Most people don't share the bad parts. And those are the parts that are going to encourage us the most, because it's what connects us. It's what helps us realize that, gosh, there really isn't any such thing as an overnight success. An
No.
overnight success was 20 years in the making, 10 years in the making. It's just all that stuff. So I grew up thinking that I was going to be a music teacher until I finished my music degree and realized how much I hated teaching music. I loved singing and I loved being involved in music. I did not love teaching it. So I ended up in corporate America and ended up eventually going for my MBA because a company told me they would pay for it. And I felt my words saying yes, while every fiber in my body was saying, don't do this, don't do this. You hate this. You hate this. But I did it. And I sat behind a desk feeling like I was in a prison. And at my last job, my desk really was set up where I had something in front of me and something on the side of me, so that the only way into my desk was to walk into this little tiny cubby thing. I literally kind of put myself into a prison every day. And I lived
Wow.
this one-dimensional life where I was very negative. I got to the point where almost everything I said was negative. And I asked my husband one night, am I really negative now? And he said, yeah, you are. You're definitely not the person I married. It was just, it was like he stuck a knife in my heart, but I'm the one that put the knife in his hand. I mean, I asked the question.
Right. Here, push this in. Ow, it hurts. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And I knew that something had to change. And about the same time, my oldest brother, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I just always had this vision of my two brothers and I sitting on a porch when we had grandchildren, regaling the stories of our childhood like my mom and dad did with their siblings, and we would laugh about all their stories. And I just always thought that was going to be my life. And then Billy was diagnosed with this terminal cancer. And just before he died, literally a week to the day before he died, he took my hand and he said, you are keeping yourself in a prison. You have all these gifts that you're leaving undone. And I want you to promise me before I die that you will spend the rest of your life pouring into the lives of others, helping them choose more life while they still have life to choose. And I promised him. I 100% promised him I would do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he was so amazing. He died when he was 48, and it was just, he took a huge piece of my heart with him. And I promised him, I made this promise to him, Sean, and then I didn't follow through. I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. And not long after he died, I had a dream. In this dream, I walked into a restaurant. This gentleman was sitting with his back to me. I knew it was my brother. I knew it was him in this dream. And I kept trying to get his attention. I wanted him to talk to me. I wanted to invite him to our house for dinner. And he completely ignored me, no matter what I did.
Wow.
And I finally went and I stood in front of him and I demanded of him, Billy Berger, why won't you talk to me? I just want to invite you to our house for dinner. Gosh, I miss you. Where have you been? Why won't you talk to me? And in my dream, he looked up at me and he said, because I died. Don't you remember I died? I'm only here to give you a message. Life is short, little sister. Choose wisely. And I woke up knowing that no matter what happened, it was time to make the steps to live the life I was truly called to live. And that first step was going to be fixing my attitude to a more grateful person, a more adventurous person. and it started the journey in 2010, and it hasn't not been a linear climb. A lot of
Right.
mistakes along the way. Yeah.
That's Carrie, that's some powerful shit right there. Like
Changed my life.
that's seriously powerful stuff right there.
Yeah.
So now what year was all this?
That was he died in 2010. So
Okay.
that was all in 2010. I joined Toastmasters. I started to learn how to be a better speaker, a better coach, how to write a book. But first, I poured into me. I started reading every personal development book I could find on how to be my best self. That's hard. That is hard to
Oh yeah.
shift your thinking, to shift your attitude, to go from a one-dimensional person to living a three-dimensional life. And it's a journey. It is a journey that is a lot of work and really worth it.
Yeah, like I can't even imagine what that had to be like to go from one extreme to the other there. Like you said, to go from just being out there, as you said, miserable,
Yeah.
uh, n- didn't have what you wanted in that aspect to, nope, I'm like, because I see Carrie like zip lining in Vegas and doing shit like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Carrie I know does way, way, way different things to even hear. Like, I can't even imagine hearing somebody say that you were a negative person.
Oh, I was so negative. Everything in my life was horrible. Nothing mattered. Nothing I did mattered. Why should I even bother going into work the
That's
next
just
day?
wild to me.
It was bad. And I was bringing our kids down with me. I mean, we
That's
have
the tough
7
one right there.
my husband and I have 7 kids, and it's just like I was bringing every one of them
Ooh,
down
you a
into the
breeder
pit.
like me. I didn't realize we were both breeders like that.
Yep.
Look at that. We're out there like letting it be known breeding. Woo!
Yeah, and I
Because my
wanted them
wife
to
and I, we
have
got 8.
amazing lives. Yeah. You have 8?
8. We're
Wow.
we're but well, she had 4, I had 3, and then we went half on one. So
I love it. That's
yeah,
that's kind of our story. We just didn't get to the half part. I had 4. He
yeah,
had 3.
yep. And
Yeah.
then we just went half on one. And then we got the grandkids and all that. So
Yeah.
so, but your journey, like you said, you started living, but that's not like you're leaving out a pretty big
It's
like
coming.
there's some things.
Yeah.
And folks, I know, we said women's empowerment, and I want you to check out Coffee and Tea with Carrie V. And we talked about those things. But before we get to it, and if you're watching the live, and go and check out all of Carrie stuff, and if you can hear Carrie, I think you already know the answer to the part like, can women over 50 be sexy? Carrie's going to tell you about that also. She's going to tell you what about her pow pow shoes also. She jacked me all up one day when she was like, Sean, what's your pow pow shoes? And I was like, the hell are you talking about? Pow pow shoes. Is that my work boots? I whoop somebody's ass, stomp a mud hole? What are we talking about? So let's get it. So we decide we're gonna get pumped up, we're gonna get empowered.
Uh-huh.
You are the Toastmaster General, and you even are leaving something out there. Like, you're not just in Toastmasters.
No, I actually competed. My very first year in Toastmasters, I competed.
Well, tell people
And
what Toastmasters is, because most people probably have no idea.
Toastmasters is a group where we learn how to really improve on our speaking skills. And we learn how to take a 45 to an hour and a half long keynote and put it into a 7-minute speech. So that if someone asks you to fill only 7, it's much harder to fill 7 to do a 7-minute talk than an hour and a half. Because if you can an hour and a half, you have all this time to bring all this stuff in. 7 minutes is you bring all of that key information into a 7-minute speech. And then we give speeches every week, and we get feedback on those speeches. I love it. I love to speak. So being a part of it was amazing.
So this is people that are not afraid of public speaking in any
This
way.
this is actually people who are very afraid of public speaking. It is to learn how to get up in front of a crowd and deliver a speech.
Okay.
So most people that come into Toastmasters are not speakers at all.
See, I would have
Yeah.
think it was just the opposite. Like like people trying to show off their speaking skills.
No, it's really learning how to improve on skills. Or a lot of times, employers will send someone to Toastmasters so that they can learn to speak in front of a crowd if they're doing a presentation to their teammates, and they want them to know how to be able to deliver that speech. So that's what Toastmasters is. And they do a huge competition every year. So my first year in, I decided to go for it and see how far I could get. And I went all the way to the semifinals in first place the whole way. So I was
That's crazy.
really honored to be a part of that whole, and it was all like during the lockdown. It started live and then the world closed.
Yes, the world shut down,
The world shut down and it
and
went
you were
virtual.
giving it a toast,
Yeah.
and you held the toast for. Now,
Yeah.
so you get into all these things, but
Yeah.
I want to get back to, so you're up, you're moving, no more piss poor attitude,
Yeah.
none of those things, but something goes on here.
Yeah. So I talked about competing in Toastmasters, and people will ask me, well, how come you didn't compete the next year? That's an answer to what you are talking about. So from December 2020 to December 2021, in that 12-month period, I was diagnosed with the same cancer that took my brother, went into the hospital to have half my colon removed, came home with COVID, found out that I also had a genetic disorder called Lynch Syndrome, which if you want to read a novel, like a horror novel, look up what Lynch Syndrome is sometime. It's very scary. And finding out I had that was shattering to me, knowing my brother also probably had it. Then was diagnosed with skin cancer. I then had my mother had her tested for Lynch syndrome. She tested positive, got her in for a colonoscopy. She was diagnosed with cancer on May 3rd, died in my arms on May 19th. I then got COVID again. In November, I broke my arm, and December was in for another major cancer surgery. That was a 12-month time period. And I felt like my life was going to end. I felt, Sean, like every time I came up for breath, somebody took me and shoved me back under the water again. And I couldn't fill my lungs for anything in me. Life just felt like it was out to get me.
I'm gonna promise you, folks. I think Carrie and I met November.
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah.
none of
Just
this.
before I broke my arm.
I knew none. Like, but she didn't enter a room as that person. Carrie
Mhm.
never entered a room as that person. She was always positive, push, doing what she said she was going to do. I'm not going to be an ass. I'm not going to be nasty to people. She entered a room as this positive person. Carrie, I had no idea. I knew about the cancer.
Mhm.
I didn't know about, and I knew about the broken arm, obviously,
Yeah.
but I didn't know the other things that were stacked on that.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to all that, and you're, like you said, push down, push down, push down. How do you tell people, like, and I don't want to say, well, freaking get over it, but
Yeah.
what is your get over it to move forward process?
Yes. So there's an old saying that the time to ask for a map is not when you're lost in the woods. It's
That can make sense.
it's before you
And if
get.
you're a man, we just don't ask. Fuck that. I
Yeah,
know
that's
where I'm
right.
going. I know where I'm going. That's bullshit. GPS don't know what it's talking about.
That's
Stupid
exactly what
GPS.
my husband would say.
Siri,
Do you want
Siri
to?
talk. Siri told me to turn left. Siri, I'm going up a block. I know better.
Okay, well, let's just go back to the analogy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I love it because my husband says the same thing. Honey, do you want to stop and ask for directions? I could find it myself,
Find that shit myself. Oh, crazy Aunt Rose is here.
Yay. Hi, Aunt Rose.
And then Nate, yes, Nate. Carrie and I are exact opposites. So go back into it. I didn't mean
Okay.
to. So what's your get over it?
So yeah, so getting over it started in 2010 when I started reading all those personal development books. As I filled my cup, I realized that I was building stamina and strength for if life ever started handing me things. I'm not the only person who's ever gone through a season like that. There are many, many people who feel like life just keeps pushing them down and they can't catch a break. But I've never looked at GPS to know shit. That's great. I have never been someone who says, well, now I can't catch a break, because that just sets you up for this negative thing. So getting over it, and I'll use quotes because you're right. I would never tell
Right.
someone just get over
Hey,
it because
man,
you don't. But and
get over your cancer and your entire
yeah.
family and all this other. Just get over it. Like really, eat shit.
But you can choose to be happy and you can choose to find joy. And you can, this was a lesson my dad always taught me, even in the midst of like standing at my brother's casket. This was my dad's eldest son, his junior, his namesake. And my dad still brought pockets of fun and joy into that whole situation as he helped us remember funny memories. And I just always remembered that. And so even as 2021 progressed and I felt like, I mean, I would have taken the pandemic back any second for what I was enduring in 2021 and, like the start of the pandemic. And yet I just kept telling myself, if you woke up today, then you still have purpose. There is still a reason for you to be alive. So get out there and live today. And if you're not alive tomorrow morning, then your time was up. That was how I got over it.
You getting lots of like applause today. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
have to like the applause button might get broken, but that's awesome. That is a great. I have no idea who the guy is. I always watch his videos when they pop up. He's like a guru, like an Indian guru, and he's
Mhm.
got like really long hair. And it's funny you said you chose happiness, and he kind of says that he goes, "You make that choice. You
Yeah.
can choose to be angry. You can choose to be sad. Why
Yes.
wouldn't you, if you like to feel happy, why wouldn't you choose happiness?"
Yes, because a lot of people like to play the victim. So if you
That is
like
a
to play the victim, you're not gonna choose happiness. Why would you?
right. It
Right?
makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Oh God, come save me.
Yes.
I love people that want to be saved because they really don't want to be saved. They
No,
just
they
want to
don't.
drown. They want to drown you. It's the it's like when they, if you ever learn rescue swims, there's the one where the person's out there and they're flailing and they finally relax as you get close enough to help them, and
Yeah.
as you get close enough to help them, they leap on you because they want you to drown because that saves them.
Oh,
It,
yes.
they don't, in their mind, they would say, "Oh, I didn't mean to drown that person," but they still leaped on you and
Yes.
that pushed you down and raised them up. And it's the same thing you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Don't let somebody else push your happiness down
Yes.
to raise theirs up.
Yes. Yes, that is one of the main things that when I work with women, and I work a lot with women over 50 who just feel like they're invisible to the world because too much of society, women over 50 are done. We're used up.
Well, answer that for me because
Yeah.
my best friend and I were talking about this beforehand, and he said, "Who says that women over 50 aren't sexy?" I said, "Man, I know a lot of beautiful women over 50. They're very sexy women over 50, but I think a lot of Hollywood, TV, movies, the things we're presented with says that, nah, she can only be relevant if she's playing the madam role. They
Yes.
might have been sexy at one point in time,
Yes.
maybe, or it's got to be so far on the opposite end that it's got to be the over
Yes.
sexualized over 50 woman."
Yes.
And we were talking about that. So how do you approach that with a, I'm very curious of this.
Yeah.
How do you approach that with a woman that says, "I'm 50, I got grandkids, I'm not sexy no more.
Yeah.
Nobody looks at me like that." Because I promise you, her husband, as a husband, still married, still looks at her. And it's like the movie with Jack Black. I can't think of it, where he hits his head and all of a sudden he doesn't see people for their features. He sees them for the inside person. And
Mm.
I promise you, ladies, if your man is still with you, he's looking at you. He doesn't see the 50-year-old version. He
Yeah.
still sees the 25-year-old version
Yeah.
that he was chasing around. I promise you.
Yes, that is so true, and that is one of the things I bring up, and there Nathan, that was a good comment.
I will
Um
push your happiness down next fantasy football season.
um, a lot of women, when I work with them, a lot of them are out of relationships now. and they just feel like there is no place for them anymore. And we are told very subtly, sometimes by society, that we are to act, speak, dress, and think, and show up in life a certain way. It's why there are women's sections in a lot of stores. And if you ever go to the clothes in the women's section, there's nothing sexy about them. There's t-shirts with cats embroidered across the front and pants with elastic this wide that stop at your ankle. Like, and they're not nice fabric. They're just, they look like an old lady should wear them. And I will never wear them because I don't intend to ever be old. And when I'm working with women, I say, listen, aging is inevitable. Aging is a beautiful gift that my brother would have loved to have had. Aging is a gorgeous gift. Anti-aging is a farce. You can't, I don't care how much against you are getting older, you are going to age. That does not mean you have to get old. Aging is inevitable, but old is a state of mind.
Yes.
You can choose that. And that's where we start. And sometimes I will have them take a camera into their closet. And I'm like, show me what you got in there. Well, this doesn't fit me anymore. So I bought this just to hold me over till someday. What is someday? Someday does not exist. Get out there to a store, stay away from the women's section, and buy something you love now and rock it. I don't care what number is in the tag. And if it bothers you, cut it out. Just cut the tag right out. Because it doesn't freaking matter. You are not going to have the body of a 22-year-old when you are 52. You are aging, and there are things that happen when you age physiologically. You're not going to turn back the clock. There is no anti-aging serum. You can look amazing at any age. You can look sexy at any age, but you're not going to look 22 when you're 52. I hate it when people say, oh, obviously I get fired up with this, Sean. When people say, 40 is the new 30, 50 is the new 40. No, 50 is 50, and 50 is beautiful. I'm 56. People tell me, oh,
No, shut the fuck up.
I am. And people will tell me all the time, you shouldn't go around telling people how old you are. That's not nice for women to say how old they are. And I'm like, are you kidding? I've earned 56. I have earned every part of being 56. I'll speak it.
Well, think about what you just told us all through the year of 55.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't earn 56, you know what I mean? The year of 55, you earned every bit of that shit. Like,
yes, I did.
Like, that's one of those, like, guess what I earned? I got a badge for that shit.
Yes,
you can save your Pokemon badge. Look what the shit I got.
That's right.
I mean, that's right. Amazing. I mean, you really do. You know, when you say it that way, the idea that stop being upset about what your age is, and being that, well, I'm this, I have to be that. Stop doing that because you earn that number. We all earn that number. We all want to get to there. You know, it's like the high score in the game.
Yes.
What's your high score?
Yeah.
That's all. I like that.
Yeah. And you think of people like Betty White. She loved her life. She was 99, nearly 100 years old when she died, and she never stopped being Betty White. She didn't care what a number on a birthday card said. She could care less.
I think Scott's talking to you.
Did someone say beards?
Scott's here, folks.
Hey, Scott.
Scott's got a 2-foot long beard. We love Scott.
I see that. I love it.
Make sure you folks check out Talking Beards Tuesdays 8. We'll go ahead and plug Scott for a minute, and then Scott will plug me, and then maybe if I get like a 10th of his listeners, I'll be through the moon. But that's great. So look, he's such a goofball. Oh, hey. Oh, he popped right up like, hey. But so now you talk about helping women. You've got 2 books. Mm-hmm. What are our 2 books?
So, all right, the first one I wrote for me, and I decided to share it with everybody else. It's a 30-day guide to stepping into gratitude and shifting your attitude. It is literally a journal. 30 days, I walk you through how to be grateful. And so it will take things like, a lot of times we complain about doing dishes, but if we just flip our attitude into the reason we have dirty dishes is because we have food to eat.
I'm trying to get out of the screen, folks. It's not working right now. I'm trying to get out of the screen. My camera's too damn good. It keeps
hate
catching
doing
me.
dishes.
I did dishes before we came down. That's like a big thing at my house is like, who cooked dinner? I cooked dinner. I'm not doing dishes then. And my wife, my kids get it. My kids are like, yeah, that's fine. Like dad
Yeah.
cooked, we do dishes, no big deal. My wife's like, that's bullshit. I don't care who cooked. Everybody can do dishes. I'm like,
Yeah.
nah,
But if
nope.
you shift it just a little bit, Sean, to his beard is badass. It's true. Oh, I love that,
Aw,
Scott.
thank you, Scott. Scott says he's grateful for our friendship, and I'm
Love
grateful
it.
for my friendship with Scott. And soon I'm going to make it to Austin, and we're going to go hang out in Austin. I got to figure out when I can do it, but my wife and I actually want to go down there this summer.
Oh, you should go sooner than that because I'll be in Austin during our cross country trip coming up. I
Oh, we'll
don't
figure it
really
out.
know where we're
I
ending
want
up.
to go to
Yeah.
Austin so
Okay.
bad. Go ahead,
So,
keep going.
so if
Left
you
turn.
shift your attitude about those dirty dishes, though, then it's actually quite joyous to do them because the reason you're washing a dish is because you freaking had food to put on them,
Yeah, no,
right?
you're absolutely right. I never
Washing
once in
dishes
my
is
life have I been like, "Fuck, this is great to do these dishes. Good thing I
yeah,
had some food to eat." It's
yeah.
never crossed my mind. You're
It
absolutely right.
or we complain about putting clothes away. We forget we don't want to put the laundry away. Oh, I hate putting my laundry away. Really? Because you got clothes. More
Say that
than one
again.
set.
Mention that again for somebody else. It's not me, trust me. Mention
Okay.
that for somebody else that they should put their clothes
Okay.
away.
See? It's a blessing to put clothes away. We need to be grateful that we have clothes to put away. We and think about it, doing dishes, putting clothes away, taking stuff out of the dryer, this is a first world problem.
Yes, 100%.
100%. And when we shift our focus, like I was talking with someone today about do we take this cross country trip with the state of the world right now? Do we head out across the country? Is there going to be a gas shortage? And he looked at me and he said, "You cannot stop living because of something you can't control." Number one. And he said, how has things changed for you other than the fact that gas is more expensive? And I said, actually, my entire thought process has shifted again. When I go, like I picked up a can yesterday of sparkling water and I went to open it and the tab didn't open quite right. And I had to actually take my fingernail and push the little opening down in the can, because it broke off. And I went to say something to my husband, like, this stupid company. And then I realized, wait a minute, I just watched a kid run for his life because he got off a school bus and a bomb went off behind the bus. I have no right to be in any attitude but joyous and grateful that our country is not at war and I'm not sitting on a bombed out
Yeah.
part of my house.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. As soon as you say, grateful for what I've got,
Yeah.
how many people out there really don't take that into account? But
Yeah.
I was having this. You bring up a great point. I just had this conversation at work the other day, and we were talking about the gas prices. That's on everybody's mind right now. Um, and one of the guys was like, he's got a big truck. He's like, "Oh, I had to swipe my card twice because the local gas station made it stop at $100. This is ridiculous." And I was like, "Man, I dropped the same amount of money." And then I stopped and I said, "You guys do realize we're here in a conversational, jovial tone about dropping $100 for gas when somebody else is sitting there going, $100 for gas, man, that filled my tank and put food on my table for a couple of weeks." So we guess we should be pretty happy about what the
Yeah.
hell we can bitch about this. First world problems. We can bitch
Yes.
about this. So, I mean, you bring up a great point. I love it.
First world problem. Just remember that phrase. Remember that first world problem, because we don't have any. Honestly, we just don't
Right. In the grand scheme
in the
of,
grand scheme of things.
when you realize that most of us, unless you live in Flint, Michigan, which is a whole nother thing, but most of us, we can turn on the water and, get a
Yes.
glass of water, never once think about what's in my tap.
Yeah.
It just doesn't cross our minds.
Right. And think about how much we take for granted. That was the whole reason behind this book, was helping people step into gratitude. When your electric goes off and you go into a room, you still flick the switch on because you're so used to it. We take it so
Mm.
for granted that when we flick that switch, light's going to come on. And
No, absolutely.
when my kids were little, I took them into a third world country twice so they could see what it is to live in an environment that it was so foreign to them. It changed the way they viewed the world. I think everyone should do it, honestly. I think everyone should go into a third world country at some point in their lives and get an attitude check, and then make gratitude the foundation of your life. That's why I wrote that book, because I knew I needed help, and if I needed help, I couldn't have been the only one who needed it.
Well, you don't even have to go to a third world country. You can go to a first world country that's not America,
Yes, you're
and
right.
be eye open. I can still remember going to Italy in the 90s and being like, "The fuck am I at? Like
Yeah.
this is not what I'm thinking of." And my wife and I, we like CBS Sunday mornings and Saturday. They did one where they were in some place in Italy that still does not have Wi-Fi. Period, none.
Wow.
I mean, remember, this is a first world country, and has fought in world wars.
Yeah.
Not these air like the one kid. He's like, yeah, I've got to climb up this hill, 20-30 minute walk and sit down in a field so I can get a signal on my cell phone to be able to do my college work because they were still remote. And that's a
Wow.
first world country.
Wow. Think about that. Wow. We have I don't understand sometimes the people that I talk to who are so ungrateful. Like, the restaurant didn't have the flavor of tea I wanted. Really? You can't
Right.
put a tea bag in your purse and take it with you? You're gonna I
Don't put a tea
just
bag in your purse. Don't do that. Because your husband's gonna look at you and be like, where did you get that tea bag from?
I do it all
I
the
brought it
time.
from the house.
I do
And
it
he's
all
gonna
the
be,
time.
and I guarantee you, your husband's like, "Fuck, she bring a tea bag with her
Yeah.
for?"
He's like,
What's
"Your
going on here?
purse is like Mary Poppins' bag." That's what he tells
Yeah,
me.
he's like, he's sitting there going like, why did she, why are we pulling tea bags?
Because they might
Out of,
not have ginger tea there. But instead of complaining about it, just
solve the problem.
solve the problem. Yes.
I used to have an old boss. He sucked, but he used to always say, "Don't come to me with problems. Come to me with solutions."
Solutions. Yes.
So
Yeah.
now I
Okay.
think that kind of feeds into your other book though,
Yes.
because your
So
other
in a
book really is some solutions.
yes, and it actually has those Pow Pow shoes right
There's
there.
the pow pow shoes.
There's the Pow Pow shoes.
For those of you listening to the audio, they are bright red shoes with 50s, 60s style POW was Zam on the side of them. That
Sparkles.
if you ever listen to Carrie's show, she will ask all of her guests what their POW shoes are. And these are something that you bring with you that empowers you to have
Yeah.
the confidence in a conversation or something. It could be anything.
Yeah, it can be anything. It can be anything. I had a gentleman one time tell me his version of his Pow Pow shoes was his mom, because
Oh,
she just was so behind everything he did. It very much touched my heart as a mom to hear him say that. But yes, this book, The Radical Empowerment Method, I should say the title for those not seeing the video. It's getting off the sidelines of your life and stepping into your Pow Pow shoes, literally stepping into what makes you you and living a life of purpose. And in that book, we cover some gratitude, but we talk about happiness and joy, forgiveness and grief. We talk about how to change your path. How do you know if you want to change your path? How to go from living this one-dimensional life that we're all taught to live. I mean, there is no college course that's, live a fulfilling life one-on-one. We're not taught that. We're just taught to get through and work, retire, and die.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's basically what life is. And I don't get that. We have this short amount of time. I say
Enjoy it.
embrace it. The
Have fun
radical
with it.
empowerment method, living a life of not just empowerment, but radical, above the top
The
empowered
above
life.
the bar. Get above the
Above the
bar.
bar. Yes.
The above the bar. Like
The
just
above
keep
the
saying,
bar. Not
get
under
the
the
above.
bar.
Get
Way
get
above.
the above the bar.
Yes.
We're-
And
So
so my cousin, this is I was thinking about this today, and I think it's brilliant, so I'm going to share it. So, not to toot my own horn, but sometimes things come in my head. I'm like, that's good. That's good. My cousin runs marathons, and she will sometimes call me and say, "Hey, like this last one was in Las Vegas. Do you want to come to Las Vegas and run a 5K with me?" And of course, since I've had cancer, everything is like, "Yeah, actually I do. Let's just do all the things. I'm going to do it all. Whatever yes. Yes, I will go Superman style sky, like zip lining 11 stories up and 5 blocks down Fremont Street. Of course I'll do that. I was terrified. Anyway, she asked me to run this race. Linda is an avid runner. And before every race, the night before, she lays absolutely everything out on the floor. And then she takes her cell phone and she takes a picture from above it. and it's her entire outfit without her in it, and she calls it Flat Linda. And apparently this is a big thing in the running section. Everybody does this, and they share their pre-race picture of the flat version of themselves. And I was thinking about that today, that most people live their entire lives as the flat version of themselves. It's them laid, just the stuff laid out on the floor, but there's no substance in that. So
That is absolutely Ray. What's up, brother, man? Ray is a great example of the things you're talking about. I'm going to toot Ray's horn for
okay.
him. He's another Marine, was in the Marine Corps back in the Vietnam era. A very good friend of mine. We call his mom the Sergeant Major. She's in her 90s. She's a little tiny Italian lady. She's
Ah,
phenomenal. We love
I
her.
love it.
We call her the Sergeant Major. But Ray's an example of that. The Ray I knew when we first met was a Ray that was going to, at the snap of a finger, lose his temper. Grew up in Philadelphia, had no problems with throwing hands with people. Very,
Mm,
very, you know, for stereotypical reasons, I'll say very like Italian temper.
yes.
He had that. Ray had some things go on in his life, and Ray is as cool as the other side of the pillow now. And he's the kind of guy, he tells me all the time, he's like, Murph, I don't have time. Well, he calls me Gunny still. He goes, Gunny,
Yeah.
I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
I don't have time to be that upset. I don't have time to deal with those things. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Uh it's one of it's like very it's very interesting to see, what those things do in life.
Yes.
How do you get people to now I want to kind of roll back here for a second.
Yeah.
How do you get people that haven't had these life tragedies? And I'm not trying to be like, oh, woe is you, but I mean, let's call them what they are. They are life tragedies. Anybody
Yes.
would look at them. How do we get people before they've hit that tragedy to go and say, yeah, maybe I should start? Because right now, I'm going to tell you right now, when somebody in their 20s says to
Mhm.
me, I'm going to live in a van, I'm going to drive across country, I'm not going to start working yet because I don't want to work till I die, and they start doing that, we're of the generation, and I'm 45, so I'm on the backside of where you would be generational wise.
Yeah.
But we were told, like, I started working at 14.
Mhm.
If you didn't have a good work ethic, you ain't shit.
Yes.
And you need to work as soon as you can, and you need to put money away and start saving for the future and all that. Does this other generation like, and I love when people call them lazy because it makes me laugh. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, they're just outsmarting us right now.
Yes, they are.
How do you how do we get to that point, or how can we get there without hitting that tragedy?
Boy, I feel like there's two questions here, and it's interesting because I was just talking with this about to somebody about this too, how it used to be, and my own dad said this, don't you can't date him. Do you know how many jobs he's had?
That was a
And
thing.
it was a thing, and but I found myself believing that, and so I wanted to marry someone who was gonna stay with a company for 50 years, golden handcuffs, retire, and die, because that was what was revered,
Oh yeah.
and right? I mean, totally, totally revered, and
Goal
now
was to
I'm
be
like,
salary also. Oh, you're a
"Yo,
salary. I
yeah,
I can still remember when my mother went from salary for all these years and they paid her hourly,
yeah,
and she went, "Damn, I was missing out on all this overtime
yeah,
and all this extra money."
oh, yeah,
Again, another corporate lie, folks. If you
oh,
can get a good enough hourly wage, trust me, they won't work you near as much because they'll be like, "This is bullshit."
yeah,
Trust me.
oh, yeah, oh, yeah, that salary thing's one of the biggest lies, and I'm sure it was started by a very
Oh
top
yeah.
CEO somewhere, because
Somebody was like,
we're yeah,
"Don't worry about it. If you work 5 hours today, you get paid the same as 8." Well, shit, that sounds great. Hey, we're gonna need you for 10.
yeah,
But
uh,
I got, yeah, your salary. There's no hours on what you do.
right,
Ain't you a
right.
bitch?
Right. We're gonna call you when you're in Hawaii on your dream vacation because your salary, oh, yeah, that's a big corporate lie. Okay.
Yeah. That's like a whole show in and of itself. Like, we
It
could just
is.
go into corporate lies. Like, my new favorite one right now is when they tell you that you quit a job. And I will tell you right now, folks, you have never quit a job a day in your life. You never have. It's a corporate lie to make you feel bad
Yeah.
about leaving. What you have done is you've left bosses and you've left cultures.
Yes.
That's what you've left. You didn't quit a
Yes.
job. You left a boss and you left a culture. Even
Mhm.
if you say to me, hey, I couldn't get to that job any longer because it was 10 miles away from me and I didn't have a car. Well, you left a culture that wasn't conducive with you getting to work. There wasn't anything in place in the
Yeah.
society you lived in that said, hey, we need to make sure people can get to work because people with money take care of their things and they're happier people.
Yes.
You left the culture. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
get off on that. That's a whole thing I get pissed
I
about.
love that. I love that. And I think that young people are waking up to the fact that life really is too short to stay in a job that you hate simply because you're supposed to.
You're addicted to the money.
Yeah. And so that's part of that question. And you're right, they are outsmarting us. They are. I just don't think everyone needs to go to college or should. I don't think it is for everyone. I think that's another lie that we have believed, and then kids are graduating with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and it's in something they never even liked. They did
Right.
it because their parents said, or a guidance counselor said, or someone said, you should be a music teacher. Okay, I guess I will. Oh gosh, I really hate this. But I've really just never been one to just stay where I hate forever. Like eventually something starts ticking in my head. Like
Time to go.
even going into entrepreneurship, I tried a lot of things before I ended up as I am a professional speaker. This is what I love doing. This is what I love doing. Being
Get
on
up there and
stage.
talk.
Yes. It just okay. The other part of the question, how do someone who hasn't been through all this is very, very simply what I tell people is take my diagnosis, try it on.
What do
Look
you
at
mean?
yourself in the mirror and say the words, you have cancer. Have someone call you on the phone and say you have cancer. Just borrow my diagnosis. Just go ahead and take it.
Oh, okay. Like,
Take it. Go ahead and take it. Try it on. See how it feels. And then if you were told that you had cancer and Lynch syndrome, and by the way,
well,
since you have
what
Lynch
is
syndrome,
Lynch? So
okay,
give the Reader's Digest version of Lynch.
okay, Reader's Digest version, it is a missing gene. I'm missing the MLH1 gene in my genetic makeup, and it means that I am 90% more likely than the general population to have colon cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, skin cancer, brain cancer, bladder cancer for men, prostate cancer. And when those cancers do come, my body is unable to fight them off
Because you're missing that gene.
because it's missing the gene. It's it floored me when I found out I had that. And how common it is, but most people don't know. 95% of the people walking around with it don't know they have it, but it affects 1 in 250 people. So that has become something that I speak on too.
So is this
And
something that we could simply just go to our doctor and be like,
yeah,
is it as simple as a blood test, or are we getting into like
spitting in a test tube, that's it.
that simple?
It's that simple. It's that simple to have an entire gene panel done. So then I'm 50% more like I am 50%. My kids have a 50% chance of having it, so they're being tested. My mother had it, and 2 of her kids. We're sure my brother had it because you will also develop these cancers early. And colon cancer was what I had. I had a clean scan 3 years ago. This was a routine scan. I've had them done since I was in my 30s because of the huge family history of cancer. And so I just went in and started getting screened. This was a screening colonoscopy. There wasn't even a polyp. He just took some biopsies of the colon wall because of the family history. And that's another thing with Lynch syndrome. You don't need a polyp. It just starts right in your colon wall. And
No
it had already
shit.
spread all the way into my ascending colon in less than 3 years.
That just
So just
so
yeah,
none of the normal stuff like, oh, we
no.
found a polyp, we're gonna test it.
Right.
It's just there.
It's just there. No symptoms, nothing. It was just like it totally floored me to hear those words. Do you know the old song by Tim McGraw? Where the song starts off with this man is in his early 40s and he goes to the doctor and the doctor tells him this news he has cancer and he's looking at the x-rays and he's just trying to think about what he's going to do, and his friend goes, my gosh, what do you do when you get that kind of news? And the friend says, I went skydiving, I climbed the Rocky
Oh
Mountains.
yes, I do know what you're
Right,
talking about.
that song. That's what I tell people. Go listen to that song and imagine you are that person being told you have You're going to die. What are you going to do with it? Every day, just imagine that this is your last day. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to live? If someone asks you to go zip lining 11 stories up over Fremont Street, what's your answer going to be? If you know you
Metal
have,
and black.
right? If you knew you had, let's say, even a year, what would you fill it with? Would you keep being afraid to take the roller coaster ride? Do it.
I mean,
Do it.
I love that attitude, and you hear it more and more now. In my line of work, one of the things I see a lot more often, I was just talking to somebody about this. You've heard of the Great Resignation.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, the Great Resignation is people leaving jobs that they've had for 10, 15, 20 years. And most of them are leaving for work-life balance. I've
Mm-hmm.
physically talked to about 4 people in the last 2 days. And when I said, hey, what do you need out of your next position? Work-life balance. I'm working 70 hours a week, and I'm in my late 40s, early 50s for a lot of them, and I'm working 70 hours. And when I say to my boss, please hire somebody else, or, can we change my schedule? They offer me more money. I don't care about that money. I can't spend it when I'm dead.
Right.
And I'm hearing this a lot, and it's interesting to hear this approach that most of us wait till we're almost dead
Yeah.
to realize, hey, I need to go do this. I need to go do that. I need to be here. I need to be there.
Yeah.
Is there a other side to this where have you ever had to tell someone like, hey, hold on, wait 1 second. Don't go. You've taken this train completely off a dirt road here. Like, come back. You can still live life, but you got bills to pay. Like, what do you like, hey, come back. Like, have you had to deal with anything like that before?
Honestly, no. I think maybe because I work with a lot of women who have been so afraid to take chances that the the opportunity of them getting to that space is just not happening.
Gotcha.
I do understand what you are saying, and there is recklessness. However, I'm just going to put this out there.
Put it out there.
Who are we to say you're not following your path? I mean, who decided what reckless is? Who decided what old is? Who decided what normal is? Who decided that that's the way life is supposed to be lived? I mean, I do want people to be responsible, but some people need to go through the irresponsibility to get to the responsible path. Everybody's path is different. They can take the path that like I tell people all the time when my husband will say, I got to wash the car today and I got to do this. I'm like, honey, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to follow the laws. You don't have to do anything. Now there are consequences to your choices, but you don't have to do anything. You get to choose what you do with your time, what you do with your money, what you do with your, you get to choose. Your choices have consequences. So when a woman will say to me, well, I'm just going to quit my job tomorrow, I will say, let's take a step back. Let's just talk about this a little bit. I want you to list out exactly what will happen when you quit your job.
Right.
Because you're right, you don't have to go in there tomorrow, but there are consequences and you need to be prepared for the consequences. Either way. And
Right.
I have women that still go in and quit, and there are some women that will say, okay, let's put together a 6-month plan. Can you help me with that?
Like, that seems pretty wild. Like, so you've really had people like after like meeting with you and being like, fuck it, I'm quitting my job tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yes.
Like, and I'm curious, quit their job and then do what?
And then, okay, so one of them wants to be a speaker. So that's what she has been doing, building everything up, reaching out to contacts, creating her own event. Her husband was 100% behind her, said, you know what? If you can do it in a year, we'll be okay. And just some people don't have that option, but some people do. I did. I remember waking up and saying to my husband, I'm done. I am done going in there every day. And he said, quit. So I did.
Now, I'm gonna talk about, because we're very yin and yang, you and I. The other side to that coin, though, is what I'm hearing is support system, financial support on the other side.
Yeah.
What I'm not hearing is somebody walking, having a conversation with you, and they are that woman you talked about that's 50, doesn't have anyone with them,
Mhm.
and going, I'm pulling the plug. I'm going to do my own thing. Have you had that also?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, gosh. And she wasn't in her 50s yet, but this woman actually at the time had small children, and I remember talking to her, and she called me and she goes, "So guess where I am?" I said, "I'm hoping on lunch break." She goes, "Well, sort of, but I'm not going back." I left. And I won't use the word quit because I like what you said. She left the
Yeah.
culture. That's what she did. And I said, "What are you gonna do now?" She said, "Find someplace I like." And she did within 2 weeks. She just it is a mindset of knowing what you're created for. And a lot of women, not all of them, but a lot of women in their 50s have a little bit to fall back on, even if they don't have a support system. They've got something, or they'll sell a car, or they're if they are that desperate for change. And I have worked in corporate jobs that were like that, where going in one more day, I think I would have lost my mind. And I have walked away from this not my first time. This was not my first time walking away from a culture. It
It,
was
it's interesting when you think about it as a culture. That
yes,
ch- that changes the entire
it
dynamic.
does.
I walked away from a job. No, you didn't. You probably went to do that same work somewhere
Yes.
else.
Yes.
What you walked away was from a culture that didn't fit your needs. There's
Yes.
somebody there that it works for. You
Yes.
just aren't that person.
Exactly. Exactly. So yes, I'm on both sides of the coin, Sean, because there are times where I will say, let's give this 4 months or 3 months or 2 months or whatever it is, and then you're gonna turn and walk. And there's times, I mean, it's just it's a balancing act, and every person is different. I don't want someone to walk away and then not have money for food tomorrow. I would never, ever, ever recommend they do that. We can work on things before they leave and have something set up for them, some kind of change set up. But every situation is different. And I'm telling you, young people now,
They don't.
they kind of got it right.
Yeah. I
They do.
mean, most of them, you know, we've all seen it. They just kind of, all right, I'm packing my shit. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go do this, or I'm gonna work remote because I've got that as an option, and
Yes.
my employer lets me do that, so I'm just gonna drive across country.
Yeah.
Where the rest of us, we've we've created a life that we're beholden to the area we live in,
Yes.
and we have to stay here. We can't move around. It's even, my wife and I have talked about this, and it's kind of that, leaving a culture piece a little bit, but we've talked about like, hey, we want to move to here, or even leaving the home we have now. And we're like, there's so much in here.
Ah,
What do we do with it all? How
right?
do we get rid of all this? And you start realizing, well, I've made this into my prison.
Yes.
Look at that. Look
Oh
at you,
my
fucking
gosh, we
Carrie.
really are so parallel. Same conversation with my husband today. And I
Yeah,
did a reels today where, I was in Florida last week. We come home to a foot of snow to be
I
cleared.
saw that.
And it's like I'd like to leave. I'd like to leave. And we were talking, and I said, "Look, here's a house in Smithfield, North Carolina. It's absolutely beautiful." And he's
I know
like,
Smithfield.
"It's beautiful there. It's beautiful." At least the
Smithfield
part
barbecue. Smithfield barbecue is home there.
really?
You know Smithfield barbecue?
I've heard of Smithfield barbecue.
Smithfield barbecue, Carolina style pulled pork sandwich, is a pulled pork vinegar with coleslaw on it.
Oh.
And I'm gonna promise you, maybe that's my pow pow. Because
So,
because
I'll have
I
to
feel
look it up.
so much better eating one.
I can see it on your face.
Oh, oh,
But I
Carolina
found
style.
this house there, and I was like, "Gabe, look at this house. Oh my gosh, we could do this." And he said, "It's smaller than what we have now. What are we gonna do with all the stuff?" And I said, "Sell it. Do we
Yeah,
need 4,000 square feet for 2 people?"
right.
You know? And he says, "Well, that's not it. Do we want 4,000 square feet for 2 people?" I was like, "Well, that one's in North Carolina."
Yeah, that's really the key to it.
Yeah.
I I promise you, and I'm on all that's holy. I will be back in Jacksonville, North Carolina, Onslow County, um, before I die. That's where
Yeah.
I'll live at. I know that, there's no doubt in my mind. It's one of those things that when I'm ready to go, and I love my home. I've got a lot of cool stuff here.
Mhm.
I've built my man land. Um, and I've got my garlic garden outside. I've got all those things, but it's like I'm with you. Like
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not staying here.
Yes. It's like I've been temporarily in Binghamton for 32 years now.
Where you originally from?
Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh, oh, a
So
Mid-Atlantic. That's why we speak. There it is. We figured it out. Another Mid-Atlantic girl with a Mid-Atlantic guy because I'm from Baltimore. That explains all this shit.
it does.
Everything makes sense now.
It does. It
We
does.
you know, when you can say to somebody that Old Bay goes on everything,
Old Bay goes on everything. Oh my gosh, who does not know that?
Old Bay goes on everything, especially French fries. You know what I put it? You know what I put it on? I'm a food moment. If you ever buy the steam bags of corn,
Uh-huh.
put a little bit of butter and put Old Bay on it, and it's like having Old Bay corn, like when you used to I don't know if you did that with the corn on the cob.
Oh yeah.
Put the Old Bay. So I put it on the sweet corn, the
Mhm.
microwave bags, and my kids love it. Like my kids are Old Bay kids. Like
Yeah.
my kids grew up eating that shit. So
Well, we did. We
I
did. My
love it.
brother still lives down in Millsboro, down lower Delaware.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh
I
yeah.
I know where
He
you're
is
talking about.
he is a redneck Southern boy.
Yeah, that's like a weird. Like there's definitely like the weird area of Delaware where you're like, you're definitely like north of the I mean, I don't know. Where does Delaware fall at with the Mason Dixon? God, I don't even
It's
know.
north of the Mason-Dixon.
Because Pennsylvania is Pennsylvania Maryland is the Mason Dixon line. So
Yeah.
I was just trying to think where
It's like
Delaware sits at.
it's right there.
Yeah,
Like you could
like
toss a stone kind of
bro,
thing.
Nate, Old Bay on mac and cheese.
Oh.
Nate's from Baltimore area also.
Oh,
Old
yeah.
Bay on mac and cheese is
And you don't buy
glorious.
those stinking little tiny things at Old Bay. They're the big Sam's Club
Oh
size.
yeah, I at one point in time we did have the handles like a straight up whiskey handle, the handles of Old Bay around because we were always steaming crabs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you get the handles
Oh,
and make the
steaming
seasoning up.
crabs.
I love
Maryland
it.
blue crabs.
Oh
Mhm.
yes. Like that's
Mhm.
one of those things so where we're at, so you'll appreciate this that now that both of us are stuck here in New York. Uh there's a place here in Albany where I can get blue crabs. And I got to give the guy a 1 week notice. And the last time I got them, it was $250 a bushel.
Wow.
I just want to put that in your mind for a minute.
Oh my
The same
gosh.
crabs that I drive down to Maryland, now the gas nowadays probably
Yeah.
cost me that much, would be like 100, 100 and a quarter at the most for a whole
Yeah.
bushel. 250 to have them brought to New York, and they're coming
Wow.
out of, and they get them out of Boston somehow. Like uh the guy's dealer, his his dealer's in Boston. But yeah, I so
Yeah.
miss it.
I know. I do too.
Like Nate says, my favorite part of the show is food talk. I will every show ends up that way because I can tell Carrie, like if I'm out in Binghamton by where she's at, I go to Tully's. You gotta go.
Oh, are you a Tully's fan?
I am a Tully's fan because Tully's is next to the Marine Corps recruiting office
Yeah.
right by the college. So I used to go out there. My buddy was the Marine recruiter out there, and we would go next door to Tully's for lunch and have a food lunch and a liquid lunch.
Yeah.
A little bit of liquid lunch never hurt anybody,
No.
but we would do that all the time and go to Tully's. But I love Tully's. Tully's has got great bar food.
Yeah, they
Tully's
do.
bar food is like top notch bar food.
It
We used
is.
to have a Tully's in Baltimore.
Really?
In Timonium. There was one in Timonium,
Uh-huh.
Maryland. And that's another thing. If you live in Maryland, everything that I can drive to, even if it isn't in Baltimore County or Baltimore City, is Baltimore.
Uh-huh.
As long as I can drive to it,
Yeah.
and it's not you haven't hit Frederick yet, or you
Yes.
haven't gone downstate. If you hit Frederick or you head downstate, then it's not Baltimore anymore. But
Yeah.
pretty much like you're in parts of Hartford and Anne Arundel County, and you're like, yeah, it's like we're in
Oh,
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Yeah.
Baltimore. People are like,
I
"Bitch,
I love
you're in a
it.
whole
I
nother
love
county."
that area. Love it, love it, love We spent a lot of time there way back in 2005-ish. Oh, pizza and Old Bay.
Oh yes.
We spent a lot of time in Baltimore way back in the day in 2005 when my dad needed a kidney and I was a perfect match for him, and they did it at Johns Hopkins
Wait a sec, so
University.
you gave your dad a kidney too?
I did back in
Look, you're
2005.
bullshitting around trying to get some angel wings or some bullshit here. So we're done. Nobody is as perfect as Carrie V is.
Oh, I'm
We're
so
giving
far
out
from.
we're
I'm
giving out kidneys.
so
We're
far
making
from.
people's lives better. We're surviving shit that would have crushed most of us. You can save this bullshit. Like, look, look. I don't give it. I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it. I ain't buy.
But the point was, we did all these eateries in Baltimore because we were there so much for all the testing and the surgeries and the post stuff, and we got to know Baltimore well. And I love it. Love it.
There's like amazing like Tio Pepe's in Baltimore is as Mexican of a Mexican restaurant as you can get. That shit's right down not far from Little Italy. And it's
Yeah.
Tio Pepe's, and Tio Pepe's has probably been in that city since forever. I remember all my life people being like, "Hey, we're going to Tio Pepe's for like
Really?
a fancy dinner." Like when I was in high school, it's been around forever. It's just
Ah,
one of those kind of places, where it's an institution. My mom actually worked at this place called Acme Paper. It's like paper chemical supplies for like restaurants and schools and stuff. Well, the family's last name is Atman. Well, in Baltimore, the Atman's Deli is the oldest restaurant I think it's the oldest restaurant in the entire state of Maryland,
uh-huh.
is Atman's Deli in Baltimore City. And it's a Jewish deli and it's amazing. Like legit Jewish delicatessen, not like, hey, we're a deli, but yep, now we're going to sell No, this is a true, legit Jewish deli. Atman's Deli is amazing. Just so amazing.
Wow. I'm gonna have to go back there now.
Oh, I can't wait. So where can we find, because we're getting off topic here, because look, the fat kid that lives in my soul has gotten his moment out in the sun. Where can we find the book?
Yes, the books, both of them are on Amazon. So if you just go to Amazon and put my name in, Carrie, and the last name is Verrocchio, Verrocchio.
Spell it
They
again.
will Verrocchio. It's there.
It sounds like it should be sang by the people who did the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Verrocchio. Like I'm telling you, it's the same thing.
Or probably easier, you can go to coachcarriev.com. Just a V, no EE, coachcarriev.com, and you can get it right there. You don't even have to worry about spelling the last name.
And where can we find the podcast?
The podcast is Coffee and Tea with Carrie V on Apple and Spotify right now.
And how often are you doing those?
Every week. We have a new
Once a week.
episode every week. Yeah.
Did you already do this week's?
No, this week's actually is late. My editors were a little behind, so it's coming up on Thursday, tomorrow.
And who's coming? I hope it's got to be after Mike, but it'll not be at the same time. So who do you have this week?
Actually, this week was a solo episode. I'm doing some episodes on aging right now and kind of taking the stage because my heart is so into this topic and helping women embrace who they are. Now, like you said, my husband's always saying, honey, I don't see what you see. I don't see what you see.
I have a beautiful wife. I love my wife. And for those who didn't see it, we got new t-shirts.
I love your t-shirt.
And it's, the Irish as fuck t-shirt. But my wife will say that sometimes. She'll be like, oh, I'm this and I'm that. I'm like, and she goes, do you see it? I'm like, don't ask me because I don't see the shit.
Yeah.
I'm blind, and I hate to say I'm blind to it because then it sounds like I'm just being an ass and not paying attention to you. But it's more of I see who I fell in love with.
Exactly. Like this is a shell. This is not who we are. Who we are is way deep inside. This is just what Carrie. It's like the hermit crab, right? I mean, the hermit crab isn't the shell. That's just the shell. And the
hermit crab will
change.
outgrow that.
Yeah.
And they outgrow it.
They do.
So
they do.
We know where we can find Carrie. We know where we can see Carrie. Carrie is also on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So make sure you go and connect with her on LinkedIn. She's also on Instagram. So make sure you go find her on both of those locations. If you follow me, follow Carrie. If you follow Carrie, make sure you follow me.
Yes.
You'll find a completely different show where you're like, who is this jackass? But make sure you share that love between both shows, because Carrie and I talk sometimes, but we really do. It is a very yin and yang.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point we should do a show together where we interview people together, because that would just be so different. People would be like, she's all well dressed. She's got her makeup on, and this jackass is in a t-shirt with his own face on there. Like, who promotes their own self like this? He's wearing a shirt with his own face on it. And you forget what he looked like. And you'll have your nice tea, and I'll be over here drinking bourbon. I'm on bourbon, folks. It'll be a blast. I can't wait.
I think we should do it. Let's do it.
We'll have to find a couple of guests, and we'll test it out.
All right.
Or maybe Carrie and I will just do something where we tell people about podcasting, because how often do you get that question? How do you do that?
All the time. How hard was it? Were you scared? I didn't know a dang thing. I just bought a mic and started.
Same.
Yeah.
And Carrie's show is way better produced than mine. Way better.
This
is going to end. Everything you've heard this is what you're going to get, folks. And I'm going to play the closer after the show's over. Carrie and I are going to talk for a couple of minutes, and then I'll schedule whatever you just heard. If there was a bad noise in the background because the cat was running around, that's what you're getting out of this show. There's no, if I bump the mic and you're like, what the hell is that noise? It sounds like he's like headbutting something. I probably bumped the mic. You're getting all that.
I love it.
Carrie's over here completely professional. Hasn't hit a damn thing. And I'm all over here cattywampus. No. So, and thank you again, my dear. Carrie told me before the show, by 8 o'clock, she's makeup off and PJs on.
Yeah.
And she hung with us all night after 8. I think her husband also was like, does this dude know this is fun for you? Like, this ain't legit.
This is totally out of the ordinary.
Yeah. So thank him. We appreciate.
I will.
We appreciate him having you on here. I almost said letting you, and then I'd have got yelled at. Ain't nobody letting Carrie do nothing. Nobody puts baby in the corner.
That's my favorite line.
You knew that was coming. That's the way it just felt like. Nobody puts baby in the corner. So as we always do, and I'll say it one more time. If you're looking for Carrie, it's Carrie VE. I am Carrie V on Instagram.
Yes.
And then it's Carrie VERRICCOCCHIO.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I've spelled it this week, and I was like, put that in. You find her there on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
She's got her 2 books. One, if you're trying to figure out, am I on this path? Do I need to change who I am? She's got her 30-day gratitude book. And what's the name of the other one?
The Radical Empowerment Method.
The Radical Empowerment Method. You can read those. She also does coaching. She'll talk to you about those kind of things. And look, women over 50, still sexy. Trust me. Every man, I promise you, don't look, ladies. Every one of you could be a cougar. There is some young man out there going like, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm down. And you change his poor young life. What you do is you change his life and make him appreciate women better.
Yeah.
Because you're probably going to yell about some shit, and he's going to feel like, damn, my mom just yelled at me. I got to fix my shit. And exactly. It'll be completely better after it's all over with.
Yes.
But now you can't go nowhere after the show.
Okay.
Because we got to talk for a moment. As always, the guest gets the last word. So, Miss Carrie V, what is the last word for tonight?
It's going to be the phrase, my trademark phrase now from my brother. Life is short, my friends. Choose wisely.
Alrighty, folks. Be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation. Found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.